Good morning.
Virginia Palacios, Executive Director of Commission Shift. I believe that each of you is capable of making good decisions for the people of Texas based on evidence. You've all said that your campaign donors and your personal financial interests do not influence your decision making. Today, I'm asking you to consider withdrawing your application for Class 6 primacy with the EPA. The Railroad Commission should spend its resources developing better permitting procedures and monitoring and enforcement for the Class 2 program, which you already have primacy over. The decision that you made to apply for Class 6 primacy is confusing, and the public would benefit from understanding why you voted to pursue primacy despite the risks that it poses to groundwater in Texas. Earlier this month, we heard from Commissioner Christian at a Texas Senate hearing, indicating that he does not believe that climate change is human-caused. In other meetings, we've heard the same from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Craddock has not recently made a statement on human-caused climate change, but opposes methane leak detection and repair regulations. The only thing that will make carbon capture use and storage profitable is federal tax credits. CCUS is not a free market industry. Those tax credits have been granted under the premise that we need CCUS to be able to address human-caused climate change. If you do not believe that leaks on the CCUS supply chain are a problem, that would significantly diminish the efficacy of federal or private dollars that are spent on carbon mitigation infrastructure in Texas. That will harm the industry that asked you to seek primacy. Regardless of the status of Class 6 primacy in Texas, the Class 2 program needs a serious overhaul. Month after month, you've been faced with evidence of growing numbers of leaking, unplugged wells, geyser-like blowouts, earthquakes, and sinkholes. These events are becoming more normal than rare. But we've seen you continue to permit injection wells under risky circumstances. Making the same kinds of decisions with Class 6 injection wells will lead to great harms for Texas waters and the people who rely on them. We need you to make different decisions to help us protect the things that we love, based on evidence, not financial interests or campaign donors. In closing, I request that you clarify why you have applied for Class 6 primacy and what actions you will take to improve water protection under the Class 6 program. The Class 2 program. And I request that you consider withdrawing the Railroad Commission's Class 6 primacy application. I'm available for any questions or comments.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, you infer that you're concerned of the groundwater.
Yes.
Okay. Would you acquaint me with anywhere in Texas that our disposals have polluted groundwater?
Yes, we've provided some examples of that in a letter that we wrote to the EPA asking them to consider revoking your Class 2 primacy.
So you tell the EPA, but you don't tell us where it's at, because we're sitting here looking at the EPA, which has given us the work with the authority, looking at a saltwater disposal well permit study that was done on 62,000 wells by the EPA. And they found no primary drinking water, nor even secondary sources to that drinking water have been contaminated. And so I have trouble inferring, since the EPA has commended us. In fact, there was an argument with Oklahoma, who had some problems up there, and the EPA then confirmed to the state of Oklahoma, well, at least you should do what Texas is doing, and commended our disposal system. So I'm confused as to why we're getting credit for, and there's no identified by EPA any contamination of drinking water. And so you're saying, since the record with the EPA is at this point not challenged to that extent, but you're saying we don't do a good job of doing it after the EPA has commended us for a perfect record? I don't understand.
Sure, I know. I think it's confusing also why the EPA would commend you for a quote unquote perfect record. I think one reason is because the Railroad Commission does not actually test for groundwater contamination after each of these incidents. So it's easier for you to say that there hasn't been groundwater contamination if you haven't tested for it. But there have been some historical incidents of Class 2 groundwater contamination in drinking water aquifers And we've documented those in our letter to EPA. I did send that to some of your staff after we sent it to EPA, so that is available, and I will send it directly to you so you can look at those incidents. But I think that all of the different things that have been coming your way, you haven't done enough to investigate these incidents, the sinkholes, the leaks from unplugged wells, the geyser-like well blowouts. I think you could be doing more to investigate these incidents and to prevent them from happening in the first place. You permitted wells into the San Andres Formation, the class 2 injection wells recently, within recent months, even though that is a formation that is causing Beamer Lake to flow at 200 to 600 gallons a minute. That sounds like a really bad decision to me, and I think you could be more cautious on that front.
Okay, let me also ask a question. Bring up Beamer Lake. I think that's been proven pretty significantly. That's a water well problem, or water
I'm talking
problem.
about how
And
injection
actually,
wells affect Beamer
The
Lake.
judgment that has been, I understand, is that it would take a new rule from the legislature for us to take care of water wells and the problem with Beamer. So, I mean,
The
you're using
legislature actually has
examples
not
that are
said that.
irrelevant to the purpose or even the ability of the Railroad Commission of Texas. And you're saying the Railroad Commission is not doing its job for Beamer or for these other water wells, where it's in law, we can't. If we wanted to, we can't do that.
You made a decision to permit a class 2 injection well into the same formation that is causing pollution at Beamer Lake. You could have made a decision not to do that. That's what you could have done.
Sure, but it is not our problem it's not our role to take care of the
You
water
have primacy
problems.
to permit and regulate class 2 injection wells.
And it was one well you're talking about that we're challenging the EPA on this after the study comes up that after they studied 62,000, not us, the EPA, and commended us for that and not found that. I just think I understand it's never going to be a perfect world. I'm sorry to say that's going to happen here. There will be problems, there will be errors, there will be times that happen there. And I think the idea that we strive for perfection is good, but that is the requirement before we start going to other problems that are not, when there's not water being polluted by the Railroad Commission on what you're bringing up here. I'm thinking we should put our attention to where there are problems we need to handle.
You know,
The top problems should come first in any area, not the ifs and maybes and what ifs that we can sit here all day long putting taxpayer dollars into, when there are significant problems we are needing to address, and I'll agree with you, but this is not one of them that is significant before us.
it is significant, and
It is not a problem before us. The EPA says there's no primary drinking water or even secondary sources of it that we've had contaminated.
one way to efficiently use taxpayer dollars is to prevent incidents from occurring. Beamer Lake.
But they haven't occurred.
You haven't let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Beamer Lake and many of the other unplugged wells and P13 wells near Beamer Lake are within a mile of the Pecos River. And if that pollution reaches the Pecos River, you will undoubtedly affect drinking water supplies. You have the ability to make decisions in the Class 2 program to prevent contamination. And I don't think you've used all of your decision-making powers to prevent that pollution.
I do not respect your organization that will alert and bring fear into the public over an issue that has not yet been proven. And in fact, not even consider the fact that we've been, and I'm sure 100% is over the top, there's no such thing as perfection, but 98% successful in protecting groundwater in literally tens of thousands of such wells. And I think the record of this commission is better than any other in the world. What I don't understand is who you think can do a better job than the Railroad Commission of Texas, which by all standards is the most respected regulatory agency on planet Earth for such things. So we're going to move it to somebody else when you have the most proven, successful organization currently taking care? That I just don't understand that. But I respect your ability and your opinion, and thank you for coming.
I think it says a lot that the Railroad Commission is the best with the number of incidents that you've had in this state.
Thank you, Ms. Palacios.